Tea rituals hide danger. Miss Marple sat in the conservatory. Colonel Bryce prepared the tea trolley. Mrs. Bryce adjusted a chair. The table looked precise. Silver teapot gleamed. Cups aligned. Sugar bowl waiting. A quiet routine. "More tea, Miss Marple?" the colonel asked. She nodded politely. He poured with steady hands. Right hand gripped the teapot handle. Left hand braced on the radiator. He did it automatically, a habit fixed by years. She noticed. She always noticed. Mrs. Bryce arranged a magazine, her movements calm, not a word wasted. Her eyes, however, glanced often, always toward the colonel, as if checking each step. Hilda, the maid, entered. She placed scones neatly. "Fresh from the oven," she said. The colonel gave a sharp nod. Details mattered to him. Even tea was command. The door opened again. Martin Bryce appeared. The nephew. Cheerful smile, untidy hair. But his cheer felt thin. He held papers in one hand. "Bills again," he said. "Dreadful things. But I've sorted them." Colonel Bryce frowned. "Live within your means." Martin kept smiling. "Yes, uncle. Quite right. Always discipline." His voice carried forced brightness. The tension sat between them. Mrs. Bryce lowered her eyes. She avoided the quarrel. The colonel returned to the tea. He lifted the pot again. Right hand steady. Left hand back on the radiator. Miss Marple's gaze narrowed. Always the same action. Teapot heavy. Balance needed. Support required. The colonel never varied. Martin leaned on the doorframe. "Any tea for me?" he asked. The colonel's jaw clenched. Mrs. Bryce reached for another cup. "No," he said firmly. "I'll manage it myself." He straightened. Hand pressed firm on the radiator. The teapot tilted. Steam rose from the spout. The cup below filled slowly. Silver shone. Everything exact. Miss Marple studied him. Her eyes moved from his hands, from teapot to radiator, from habit to habit. Something about it fixed itself in her mind. Small details mattered. She waited, silent. Mrs. Bryce folded her hands, her expression unreadable. Hilda hovered by the door. The cat circled near the trolley. The colonel ignored all of them. Tea was his ceremony, his pride. He lifted the pot higher. The spout shook slightly, the cup almost full. Then it happened. His shoulders locked. His arm froze. The teapot slipped. It crashed onto the floor. Hot tea splashed across the cloth. The silver trolley rattled. Cups fell sideways. The colonel gave a harsh gasp. His body stiffened. Knees buckled. Left hand still pressed against the radiator. Mrs. Bryce screamed his name. Martin dropped the papers. Hilda cried out. Miss Marple rose at once, her eyes sharp, her mind recording every move. Colonel Bryce fell sideways. He hit the flagstones hard. The trolley overturned. Silver scattered. The room froze. Miss Marple bent quickly. She touched his neck, her voice calm, her words precise. But the truth was already clear. The colonel had collapsed, and the teapot lay shattered at his side. Dr. Haydock arrived fast. Bag in hand, voice steady. He knelt beside the colonel, checked pulse, checked breathing. Head shook once. "Heart failure," he said. "Quick, sudden, nothing to be done." "Mrs." Bryce gasped softly, hands folded in her lap, her face calm, not broken, not shocked enough. Hilda stood frozen, her apron twisted in her fists. Eyes wide, she whispered prayers. Martin shifted nervously. He rubbed his hands. He looked anywhere but the body, his papers still scattered. No word came from him. Miss Marple stayed low, her eyes sharp, her mind sharper. She did not argue with the doctor, but she did not agree. Inspector Slack entered next, boots loud, notebook ready. He glanced at the colonel. He barely crouched. "Heart failure," he repeated. "Case closed, then." His tone final. Routine. To him. Another old man. Another weak heart. Nothing strange. He wrote quick notes. Name. Age. Time of death. Routine questions asked. Routine answers given. Mrs. Bryce answered each. Clear voice. Measured words. Tea was served at 3. He took it without sugar. I prepared the tray. Slack nodded, satisfied. Procedure done. No deeper thought. Hilda muttered. Her hands shook. She stepped back, her eyes wet. She crossed herself, her grief real. Martin cleared his throat. I should call the solicitor, he said. His uncle's body still warm, yet already his mind on papers. Slack frowned. Later, boy. Respect first. Mrs. Bryce touched her nephew's arm. A small shake of the head. Martin fell silent. He stared at the floor. Miss Marple still near the body. Her hand brushed the colonel's palm. She froze. Her fingers traced the skin. A mark there. A welt. Not natural. She leaned closer. The skin discolored. Not faint. Not hidden. A burn. Yes, a burn. She looked at the radiator. She looked at the fallen trolley. She looked back at the colonel's hand. Her mind clicked. Pieces stirring. Slack closed his notebook. Doctor says heart. I agree. Let's be done. Hilda sniffled. Martin shifted again. Mrs. Bryce sat straighter. Her lips pressed thin, her eyes dry. The body lay still. Silver scattered. Tea soaked the cloth. The air heavy with silence. Miss Marple whispered low. Only for herself. Only for truth. That is not natural. Heat leaves traces. The body removed. The room cleared. Miss Marple stayed. She moved to the tea trolley. The cloth still stained. Silver scattered. She touched the coaster. Her fingers paused. It was warm. Still warm. She frowned. Tea could not explain this. Too long since the fall. Heat should be gone. Yet it lingered. She lifted the coaster. The mark beneath felt odd. Not damp, not stained. A faint circle, almost scorched. Her eyes moved to the wall. A plug sat low, lamp beside it. Switch off. Yet the plug hot. Very hot. She touched lightly, her face calm, her mind racing. Heat with no power. Unnatural. Mrs. Bryce entered quietly, her voice smooth. Old houses keep warmth, she said. Nothing unusual. Her tone steady. Too steady. Miss Marple nodded. She gave no reply. But she watched the widow's eyes. They flicked toward the plug, then away. Quick. Nervous. Hilda stepped in. Her hands rubbed her apron. She looked uneasy. Shall I clear this, miss? Her voice soft, her eyes restless. Marple shook her head. Leave it. Hilda hesitated, then lowered her voice. I heard a sound earlier, a humming, from the trolley, before he collapsed. Marple's eyes narrowed. A humming? Yes, miss. Like wires. But faint. Mrs. Bryce cut in. Nonsense, Hilda. Imagination only. Her tone sharp, her eyes cold. Hilda stepped back, her face flushed. She looked down. She said no more. Marple stayed silent. She bent low again. Her hand slid under the trolley. Her fingers brushed something thin. A wire end. Cut clean. She pulled it free. A short length. Shiny. Fresh. Not dusted. Not old. Her mind sharpened. Pieces moved closer. Coaster warm. Plug hot. Wire hidden. Hilda's humming. Then the twist. She turned the wire. Tiny traces clung to it. Metal polish. The same polish used on silver. She looked up, her eyes on Mrs. Bryce. The widow smiled faintly. Too faintly. Miss Marple pressed the wire flat. Her thoughts clear. Her whisper quiet. The heat came from elsewhere. Safety was bypassed. The morning cold hung sharp. Miss Marple returned to the cottage. Hilda opened the door. Her face pale. Her eyes red. Inspector's inside, she said. Voice low. Hands clenched. Miss Marple stepped through. Inspector Slack stood stiff. Notebook open. Mrs. Bryce sat near him. Back straight. Expression calm. Slack nodded once. Routine follow-up, he said. Formalities. Marple's eyes moved. She noticed papers spread on the table. Bills, receipts, letters. Mrs. Bryce touched them neatly, fingers controlled. "I wish to see the fuse box," Marple said, her voice polite, her eyes steady. Slack raised a brow. "Fuse box?" "Yes," Marple answered. "Electrical matters trouble me." Slack frowned. Mrs. Bryce gave a faint smile. "If it pleases you," she said, her voice smooth, too smooth. Hilda led them. They walked into the scullery. Small space, bare walls, metal box on one side, dust across it. Slack pulled it open. Ceramic holders lined inside, wires neat. Marple leaned closer, her eyes sharp. She pointed. "That one. The center." Slack peered. He bent low, then muttered. "Well now." He reached in, fingers pinched carefully. He pulled it free. A penny coin. Dark edges. Shiny center. Wedged where fuse wire should be. Slack grunted. "A cheap trick," he said. "Seen it before. Villagers saving on wire." Hilda gasped, hand over mouth, her eyes wide. "Dangerous," she whispered. "Very dangerous." Marple watched Mrs. Bryce. The widow did not flinch, her lips pressed thin, her eyes steady. "Do you know of this?" Marple asked, tone calm, words exact. Mrs. Bryce folded her hands. "Yes," she said, no hesitation. "I did it myself." Slack stiffened. "You? You tampered?" She nodded, her voice even. "The fuses failed. Household could not run. I used the coin. It kept the current flowing." Slack shook his head. "Risky business. Could have burned the house down." Mrs. Bryce gave a small shrug. "I thought it harmless. Just a housewife's solution." Arthur disliked interruptions. Hilda whispered again. "But it was yesterday morning. I remember. She did it after breakfast." Mrs. Bryce shot her a look. Sharp. Cold. Hilda stepped back. Silence heavy. Marple studied the coin. Edges warm. Fresh marks. Not old. Recently placed. She thought of the trolley. The hot plug. The hidden wire. Now the penny. Safety gone. Slack muttered. "Foolish, but nothing more." He closed his notebook. "Case remains natural." Marple's lips pressed. Her thoughts moved deeper. Each detail sharper. Each step darker. She whispered to herself. So soft, none heard. Someone removed safety on purpose. Habits can be traps. Hilda found Miss Marple in the hall. Her face tense. Her hands restless. She glanced around first, then spoke low. "May I tell you something, miss?" Marple nodded. "Go on, child." Hilda twisted her apron. It was about the sugar bowl. Her voice uncertain, eyes wide. Marple leaned closer. "What about it?" "Mrs. Bryce told me to warm it," Hilda whispered. "On the radiator, just before tea." Marple's brow lifted. "Warm the sugar?" "Yes, miss. Said it pours smoother. But I've never heard such a thing. Not once, in all my years." Marple's gaze sharpened. "Never before?" "Never, miss," Hilda said firmly. "For 3 years I served that tea. Colonel never asked for it. Not once. But yesterday she insisted." Marple's fingers tapped slowly. "And where did you place it?" Hilda pointed. "To the exact spot on the radiator. Right there, beside the trolley." I thought it odd, but she told me it was his wish. Marple pictured the Colonel, right hand pouring, left hand braced, always the same, left palm pressed on radiator, exactly where the sugar bowl Saturday. Her eyes narrowed, the detail fixed. Routine had guided him, straight into danger. Hilda's voice shook. "I saw the mark after. A circle of moisture. The bowl had left it. Heavy crystal. Not easy to balance there. But she wanted it done." Marple nodded slowly. "And she told you this herself?" "Yes, miss," Hilda whispered. Looked straight. At me. Said the Colonel liked it that way. But he never did. Not ever. Mrs. Bryce entered then. She paused when she saw them, her face calm, her tone smooth. "Discussing the housework, Hilda." her eyes cold, her smile thin. "Yes, ma'am," Hilda muttered. She lowered her eyes, her hands clenched. Mrs. Bryce turned to Marple. "A silly idea. Warming sugar. Arthur had fancies sometimes." She gave a small shrug, dismissive. Marple's eyes held hers. She said nothing, but her silence pressed harder than words. Mrs. Bryce left the room, her steps measured, her head high. Hilda leaned in fast, her whisper urgent. "Miss, I swear it was her order, not his. I'd stake my life on it." Marple touched her arm. "You did right to tell me." She turned her thoughts inward, details aligned, teapot heavy, left hand braced, sugar bowl placed, heat rising, contact forced, a trap built from habit, one simple change, one false instruction, enough to guide his hand. Hilda looked pale. "Will they believe me, miss?" Marple's voice was soft. "They may not, but truth will prove itself." Her eyes fixed on the radiator, her mind certain now. She murmured, "Position was no accident. Water carries danger." Miss Marple sat with Hilda, her tone calm, her eyes sharp. "Tell me about the floor," she asked. Hilda hesitated, her hands twisted. "It was mopped, miss, just before tea." "Your choice?" "No, miss. Mrs. Bryce ordered it. Said the tiles must shine." Marple's head tilted. "Unusual timing?" "Yes, miss. We always clean in mornings. Never before guests. Too slippery. Too damp." Marple leaned closer. "And the Colonel's shoes?" Hilda sighed. "Slippers, miss. Brown leather. He wore them every afternoon. Said proper shoes belonged outside." Marple's eyes narrowed. "Smooth soles?" "Yes, miss. No grip, no protection. Just leather." "And Mrs. Bryce?" Hilda swallowed. "She wore galoshes, miss. Rubber soles. Said the wet floor required them." Marple pressed her lips. Rubber insulated. Leather did not. The difference spoke volumes. She stood slowly. Her eyes drifted toward the conservatory. She pictured it again. Tiles damp. Colonel steadying himself. Left hand on radiator. Right hand on teapot. Feet on water. Current flowing. Hilda's voice broke her thought. "There's something else, miss." Marple turned. "What is it?" "The mop," Hilda whispered. "I left it near the scullery, but after it was gone." Marple frowned. "Gone? Yes, miss. Replaced by another. Dry. Clean. Not mine." The twist struck. Someone had switched the mop. Evidence erased. "Who replaced it?" Marple asked. Hilda shook her head. "Not me. Not after the collapse." Marple stored it away. A careful hand had hidden signs. Another piece fitted. The door opened. Dr. Haydock entered, his face grave, bag in hand. "Miss Marple," he said softly, "I must speak." She nodded. "Go on." "I re-examined the body." His voice low, measured. There was a burn on his palm, a clear mark, and the pattern of the fall. "It does not match heart failure." Hilda gasped. Her hand covered her mouth. Marple stayed still. The doctor continued. "It fits electrical shock. The current travelled through him. The heart failed after." Slack entered then. "Still chasing nonsense?" he said. But Haydock cut him off. "This was no natural death," he said firmly. "This was shock, not heart. Animals sense first." Miss Marple sat with Hilda. The maid looked uneasy. Her hands twisted again. Her voice dropped low. "It's about Tibbins, miss." "The cat?" Marple asked. "Yes, miss. The cat." Hilda glanced around, then leaned closer. "He avoids the trolley now. Won't go near it." Marple's eyes narrowed. "Since when?" "2 weeks ago, miss. One afternoon it happened. He jumped onto the trolley. His tail brushed the lamp cord. He leapt away like burned." "Like shock?" Marple asked quietly. Hilda nodded fast. "Yes, miss. Exactly. Shook his tail. Hissed. Never returned since." Marple thought. A cat's instinct. Simple. Pure. No false words. He felt something real. "And the cords?" she asked. Hilda hesitated. Her eyes darkened. Mrs. Bryce tidied them. Strange, miss. She never cared before, but lately she touched them herself, arranged them neat, exact. Not my way. Marple leaned forward. What do you mean, not your way? I tie them in bows. Quick, safe. But I found reef knots. Tight, flat. Not mine. Marple filed it away. Knots mattered. Habits told truth. She looked at the trolley again. She imagined wires hidden. She imagined current waiting. Not chance. Preparation. Hilda swallowed hard. There's more, miss. Last week the lamp flickered. I went to check. The cord had polish on it. The same silver polish we use. Marple's eyes sharpened. Polish on a cord? Yes, miss. Strange, isn't it? Like someone rubbed it clean. On purpose. Marple thought fast. Wire. Heat. Plug hot. Now polish. No accident. Then came the twist. Hilda whispered. I saw her one night. Mrs. Bryce. In the conservatory. Late. Alone. She had the teapot in her lap, and she was holding tools. Small tools. Metal shining. Marple's breath slowed. She was working on the silver? Yes, miss. Filed it. Then polished after. I didn't speak. I thought it odd. But now it meant more. Much more. Teapot altered. Cord arranged. Cat warned. Evidence mounting. Mrs. Bryce entered suddenly, her step light, her face calm. What's this talk about? She asked, her tone sharp. Hilda froze, said nothing, eyes down. Marple stood. Her eyes met the widow's. No words spoken. But suspicion thickened. The room fell quiet. The truth hovered close. Marple's mind settled, her whisper low, her judgment clear. She prepared this long before. Silver tells truth. Inspector Slack entered the conservatory, notebook in pocket, magnifying glass in hand. He walked to the trolley. Doctor insists I recheck, he muttered, his tone bored. But his eyes moved carefully. Miss Marple stood near, her gaze steady. She said nothing. She only watched. Slack lifted each piece. Teapot first. Jug next. Bowl after. All polished bright. Then the spoons. He counted them. One by one. Each neat. Each shining. Until one. He stopped. He squinted. Held it closer to light. This one's odd, he said. He showed Marple the tip. The edge, dark. Tiny pits. Like burned. A scorch, he said. From heat, perhaps. Marple's eyes sharpened. Not kitchen heat, not a stove. Different. Sharper. Like current. She touched the spoon. Her finger traced the pits. Her lips pressed thin. Her thoughts silent. Slack shrugged. Maybe careless cleaning, he said. Acid polish. A slip. Nothing more. Marple shook her head. Number, not polish. This is arc. Slack frowned. Arc? Yes, she said. Electric mark. He frowned deeper, but moved on. Lifted the cloth on the trolley. He froze. Wire, Marple said quietly. Her hand reached first. She pulled it free. Short. Cut. Neat. Bright. Fresh. Slack muttered. Hidden under cloth. Not ordinary. Marple turned it in her hand. Polish smeared faint. Same as silver. Not accident. Mrs. Bryce entered then. She saw the wire. Her eyes flicked, then steadied fast. What is that? She asked, her tone calm. Too calm. Slack showed her. A wire, madam. From your trolley. Her lips parted. Impossible. I know nothing of wires. Her voice level. Her hands folded, but her face pale. Hilda stepped in. She looked at the wire, her eyes wide. She whispered low. That wasn't there last week. Marple glanced at her. You're sure? Yes, miss. I polished under that cloth myself. No wire then. It's new. The twist struck. Hilda's eyes watered. She whispered further. I saw her, miss. Mrs. Bryce. She carried something wrapped, like cord. The night before the death. I thought it laundry. But now, Mrs. Bryce stiffened. Her mouth opened. No words came. She turned away. She steadied herself. Slack grunted, his voice slow. Too many oddities. Scorched spoon, hidden wire, Polish marks, all in one house. Marple looked at the trolley, her eyes sharp, her voice low, her verdict final. This was built, not chance. Knots tell truth. Sergeant Williams arrived in uniform, tall, careful, his manner precise. Inspector Slack waved him over. "Check the cords," he said. "Marple insists." Williams bent low. He touched the lamp cord first, then the trolley cord, then the plug wire. His fingers paused. He leaned closer, then pulled at the knot. "Not Maid's work," he said, his tone flat. "This is reef knot. Too tight, too deliberate." Marple nodded. "Hilda ties bows, loose and quick. Always the same." Williams tested again, his hands steady. He pulled the knot free. It came apart, stiff, not soft. Edges rubbed smooth. Slack frowned. "Explain. Someone practiced this," Williams said. "Not casual. It was planned." Marple leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "And the polish?" Williams rubbed the cord. Faint smear. Silvery sheen. Fresh. Not old. "Polish again," he confirmed. "Same as silver." Mrs. Bryce stood at the door, her voice cool. "I know nothing of knots, nor polish. I run a house, not a workshop." Marple's gaze stayed fixed, her voice calm. "You polished silver this week?" Mrs. Bryce shrugged. "Every week. That is no crime," Hilda whispered from the corner. "Not the cords. Ma'am, you never touched them before." Mrs. Bryce's eyes snapped to her. Cold. Sharp. She said nothing. Williams coiled the cord, set it on the table. "Not Maid's work," he repeated. This was deliberate. Slack sighed. He rubbed his jaw. "Every piece points the same way," Marple said quietly. "Inside hand. Not accident. Not stranger. Not servant." The room fell still, all eyes on the widow, her lips pressed thin, her hands tight. Then the twist. Williams lifted another cord, a small one, tucked away. He frowned. "Different knot here," he said. "Square knot, not reef. 2 hands worked, not 1. Slack stiffened. "You mean 2 people tampered?" Williams nodded slowly. "Possible. 1 set tied reef, another tied square. Not same skill." Marple's mind sharpened. A second hand, hidden, overlooked. She looked at Martin. The nephew shifted. He avoided her eyes. His fingers fidgeted. Too restless, too telling. Mrs. Bryce finally spoke, her tone sharp. Perhaps servants meddled, children of the staff. Anyone could touch wires. But her words fell flat. Evidence clear. Polish. Knots. Heat. All inside. No outsider. Marple's voice came soft, her eyes firm, her judgment certain. Evidence points only one way inside job. Habits reveal intent. Miss Marple called Hilda. The maid came quickly, hands tight, eyes nervous. "Tell me about your mistress," Marple said. "Lately. Not before." Hilda hesitated, then nodded. "She polished silver herself. Every week now. Never before. Always my job." Marple tilted her head. "And why did she do it?" Hilda shrugged. "Claimed I missed spots. But I know my work. It was excuse, miss. She wanted her hands on it." Marple's eyes narrowed. "She handled cords too, didn't she?" Hilda nodded quickly. "Yes, miss. Strange new habit." She checked the lamps, shifted the cords, said it looked untidy. Marple leaned in. "And the fuse box?" Hilda's voice dropped. "She looked inside, miss. Many times. Not just once. She opened it after breakfast. She opened it before bed, always staring at wires." Marple's eyes sharpened. "She never did that before?" "Never, miss," Hilda said firmly. "She never touched it. Not until last month. Now she makes excuse, says the current fails. But I know. She was practicing. Inspector Slack grunted. Practicing? Rubbish. But Marple's face stayed calm. Her mind moved fast. Fuse box, silver, cords, all new, all studied. Hilda's voice trembled. She even borrowed books. From the library, titles about electricity. I saw them in her room. Marple's eyes lit faintly. Books? Yes, miss. One called Household Wiring, another called Practical Current. I remember. She hid them under sewing. Slack cursed. Why would she need books? Marple answered softly. To train herself. The room went still, the words heavy. Hilda twisted her hands again. Then the twist. Hilda added quickly. But she wasn't alone, miss. Martin helped her. I saw him carry the books back. He laughed. Said Auntie was cleverer than she looked. Marple's gaze turned sharp. 2 hands again. Not just one. The nephew tied in. Slack frowned deep. So both meddled? The widow and the boy? Marple gave no answer. But her eyes stayed fixed. Her thoughts sharper now. Every piece aligned. Hilda wiped her face, her voice quiet. She changed, miss. She became different. Careful. Secret. Always near wires. Always touching things that weren't hers. Marple nodded slowly. She let silence sit. Then she whispered. Words. Soft. Certain. Final. She trained herself for this. The pieces fit. The room held silence. Mrs. Bryce sat stiff. Inspector Slack leaned back. Sergeant Williams waited. Hilda pressed against the wall. Martin shifted near the door. Miss Marple stood calm, her voice quiet, her eyes sharp. The method is clear, she said. Her hand pointed to the fuse box. The penny removed safety. It let the current run unchecked. Slack frowned. Marple turned to the trolley. Wires hidden here. Polished clean. They carried charge direct. She tapped the silver. The sugar bowl placed exact. On the radiator. He always touched that spot. His hand pressed. Contact forced. Mrs. Bryce shook her head. Number, impossible. Marple continued. The floor mopped wet. Leather slippers on his feet. Water beneath him. No insulation. He was the ground. Hilda gasped. Her face pale. Marple's voice firm. Rubber galoshes for you. Safety for yourself. Danger for him. You prepared it all. Mrs. Bryce rose. Her face drained. Her lips trembled. You accuse me without proof. Marple's gaze did not move. The scorch on his hand. The burn on the spoon. The heat on the plug. All proof enough. Slack cleared his throat. Still doubtful, but slower now. Less sure. Marple stepped closer. Her words cut each step. You studied wires. You polished cords. You tied knots, not maids. You handled the fuse box. You tested with your own hands. You trained yourself. Mrs. Bryce's hands shook. Her voice cracked. I only wished to keep the house. Nothing more. Marple's eyes narrowed. No, madam. You wished to keep control. He planned to change his will. You knew. You acted. Martin flinched. His head turned away. But his silence spoke. Mrs. Bryce sank slowly, her denial thin, her breath uneven, her face pale. Marple's voice came last, cold, clear, final. You killed him. With tea. Objects don't lie. The room waited, all eyes fixed. The silence pressed. Then the door opened. Lady Bantry entered, her step quick, her eyes bright. I brought this, she said. She held out the tea, cozy. Wool frayed. Edges dark. She placed it on the table. Marple leaned closer. Her fingers touched. She sniffed lightly. Smell that, she said. A sharp tang. Metal. Burnt solder. Fresh. Not old. Slack bent forward. He sniffed too. His face shifted. He muttered low. Not housework. That's workshop. Marple nodded. Her eyes narrowed. This was altered. Recently. Williams turned the cozy over. A patch scorched inside, the circle tight, right where the teapot rested. "Proof," Marple whispered. "Contact point hidden." Mrs. Bryce stood stiff, her lips pressed, her hands clasped. "No," she said sharply. "That proves nothing. A spill, a stove mark, old wear." But her voice wavered, her eyes flicked, her mask thinned. Marple turned the teapot next. She lifted it high, examined the handle. Her finger traced the joint. "Modified," she said. "Look here. Solder, fresh, not factory. Homemade." Slack peered close. He grunted. "Yes." Touched up. Williams scratched the line. The mark clear. Not smooth, not polished true. Marple continued. Handle conducted. Palm pressed. Current carried. Straight into him. Lady Bantry gasped. Her hand covered her mouth. "Dear God," she whispered. Hilda shook, her eyes wide. She stared at the silver, her voice faint. "I saw her polish that one. Twice in one day." Marple's voice cut. She polished to hide the work, to hide the solder. But the smell remained. Mrs. Bryce's hands shook now, her breath uneven. Her eyes darted. Slack wrote notes fast. His pen scratched, his voice low. Altered silver, changed fuse, hidden wires, too much to ignore. Williams folded arms. "Case clear," he said. But Mrs. Bryce broke then. Her voice rose, her mask cracked. Her calm gone. "Yes," she cried. Her words harsh, her face pale, her body rigid. "Yes, I worked it. Yes, I fixed it. Yes, I made it so. He never saw. Not once." She stepped forward, her hands clenched, her eyes wild. "But you'll never prove why," she shouted, her voice sharp, her words desperate. Marple stared, her silence steady, her mind clear. The widow's cry echoed. "Yes, but you'll never prove motive.